AI didn't replace data professionals, but it changed what being valuable actually means. And most people are still optimizing for the skill set that mattered about 5 years ago, while expectations at work have already shifted. So in this video, I want to break down what actually makes a data professional valuable in this AI era, based on what I see leading real teams. I work in data every day, leading projects, building dashboards, pipelines, executive reports, and delivery pressure. And over the last few years, I've noticed something very interesting. The people who stand out today are not always the most technical. They are the ones who think differently. If you work in data, engineering, analytics, or IT in general, and you want to stay relevant instead of constantly playing catch up, then this video is for you. There was a time when writing complex SQL made you stand out. Today, that is expected. There was a time when building dashboards made you valuable. Today, that's the baseline. So what actually makes someone valuable now? From what I've seen, it comes down to three things. And the third one is the one that most people overlook, or maybe I would say underestimate. Hi, I'm Angelina. I lead data teams and I work deeply in analytics, engineering, and now AI. And here I share practical lessons, real examples, and what actually works in the real world. This is the channel where data meets reality. The first thing that matters today is speed of understanding. Not speed of coding or speed of typing, but speed of understanding the business problem. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. They jump straight into writing queries, building dashboards, before they are completely clear on what the business is actually asking. Because most delay in data work does not come from technical difficulty. They typically come from solving the wrong problem, and that slows everything down. Speed of understanding isn't just about knowing tools. It's about knowing the business, asking the right questions quickly, and recognizing patterns from experience. So what does speed of understanding actually means? It comes down to three things. The first one is domain knowledge, and I'll say that's the foundation, that is the base. If I'm using my background in the current domain that I work in, it's about knowing how equipment finance actually works, what drives delinquency metrics, what a charge-off means, how reporting is used by risk, accounting, and operations. This helps you to immediately recognize what matters here. Without domain knowledge, people will spend time asking basic questions or misinterpreting the request. So domain knowledge is the base layer, but that's not the whole story. The next one is problem framing, and this is where speed really shows. This is a skill set that separates mid-level to, I'll say, senior professionals. It's the ability to quickly ask, what decision will this support? Who is using this? What metric actually drives action? Let's say, for example, in real world, if you got a request that simply said, can we get a report showing recovery performance? Someone with a slower speed of understanding will start designing tables, queries, and someone with speed of understanding would start asking, do they care about recovery rates or recovery dollars? Is it by vintage or by asset class? Are you interested in the monthly trend or cumulative? 5 minutes of framing can save days of work. And that's speed of understanding. And the last one that I want to touch on under speed of understanding is pattern recognition. I call this the multiplier. And this is what really accelerates understanding. You've seen the pipelines break for similar reasons in the past. Reports become fragile, metrics get misinterpreted, executive asking the same type of questions over and over again. So when a new request comes in, your brain quickly recognizes a pattern. That's why experienced professionals appear to be fast, because they've seen versions of the problem before. Recently, we had a request to create a new report. The initial requirement sounded so straightforward. So the first instinct is, let's just start building. But before we could build a report, we decided to ask a few questions. Who is going to use this? What metrics actually really matter? What decision is this report going to support? Those few questions that we asked changed everything. Instead of 5 pages of metrics, the business only needed about 3 numbers. Same data, very different outcome. And that really saved the day. And that's what speed of understanding really looks like. Not rushing, but seeing clearly faster. And that's also the difference between being busy and being valuable. And I actually learned this the hard way. I'll show you what happened in a minute. The second thing that makes data professionals valuable today in this AI era is clarity in communication. Because in most organizations, the bottleneck is not the data, it's understanding. If you can explain technical issues clearly, especially to non-technical stakeholders, you become incredibly valuable. I've seen situations where the data was correct, the logic was solid, the pipeline worked, but leadership still didn't trust the output. Not because it was wrong, but it wasn't clear. The explanation was too technical, too detailed, too focused on the how instead of why. Once we reframed the message, clear risk, clear impacts, clear options, everything changed. The same work, different communication, and that is clarity. So if you presented a very detailed report, technically correct, well-designed, accurate numbers, but the room was quiet, it wasn't because they were impressed, because people were confused. So this is my challenge to you going forward. Stop thinking, what analysis should I show? And start thinking, what decision should this enable? That shift alone makes someone incredibly valuable in data, because organizations don't just need insights, they need decisions. And coming back to the mistake I mentioned earlier in my career, I thought being valuable meant solving problems quickly. So I'll jump straight into solutions, queries, reports, fixes, One time I spent days optimizing the query behind a specific report, rewriting joins, tuning indexes, improving the performance. And it worked. The report ran faster. But when we delivered it, the business said something so surprising. We don't actually need this report anymore. The process changed about last week. I had optimized the wrong thing. It was that moment that I realized that speed without understanding is just an efficient waste of time, an efficient waste. And that lesson stayed with me. So being valuable isn't just about answering questions faster. It's about making sure you are answering the right question. That lesson still applies today, especially in AI. The third thing that makes someone very valuable, and this is one that most people underestimate, and that is judgment, analytical judgment. Knowing when to fix something, when to redesign something, and when to leave it alone. Tools don't give you judgment, but experience does. AI doesn't give you judgment. Let me give you like a quick scenario here. We had a pipeline that worked. It delivered the data. The numbers were correct. Nothing was technically broken, but it was fragile. Every small change upstream required manual fixes. Now, a purely technical mindset will say, it works, so leave it. But judgment will ask, what risk is hiding here? We decided to redesign part of the pipeline, not because it was broken, but because it was fragile. A few months down the pipeline, that decision prevented a major report outage in the company. That's what judgment looks like, and that's what organizations value more and more today. So if you're wondering how to stay relevant and valuable in this AI era, here's what matters: speed of understanding, clarity in communication, and judgment in decisions. Not just tools, not just syntax, not just the frameworks. Those things still matter, but they are not just what makes people stand out anymore, because those are where AI fits in. AI makes execution faster, but it doesn't replace understanding, clarity, or judgment. In fact, AI raises the bar in those skills, because when everyone can generate SQL or the code quickly, the differentiator becomes who understands the problem better, and who explains it more clearly, and who makes the better decision. That's the shift. That's what I focus on here on this channel, not just tools, not just syntax, but how real data work actually happens, how decisions get made, how systems fail quietly, how to grow in this field without burning out or becoming obsolete. If you work in data, analytics, engineering, or IT in general, and you want to grow whilst everything keeps changing, then this channel is for you. I share real-world lessons, practical workflows, and how decisions actually get made in real data teams. So if that's useful to you, then consider subscribing. In the next video, I will show you something practical, how I actually use AI in my daily work as a data manager, with real examples that you can apply immediately. I'll see you in that video.